most of you know we made a change at quarterback. And I understand all the speculation and everything that surrounds a move like that. And I can tell you, look, we're desperately trying to win. And sure, in our game today, there are economics and all those other things, but the number one push behind this, and it's a decision I'm making, is to, get a spark offensively.
Well, that was the stunner yesterday from the Denver Broncos, announced earlier in the day, confirmed by Sean Payton at his press conference. That's the final word from Russell Wilson last night. God's got me looking forward to what's next.
Whoa.
Which confirms
it's
the
over.
big takeaway.
Yeah.
It's over.
It's over.
And look, when it initially came out yesterday, I think it was Ian Rappaport that said the Broncos are seriously considering benching Russell Wilson for the final 2 games. The language was very soft, but still, the takeaway was benching him for Jarrett Stidham. And then Shefty follows that up with they're benching him for this effort to get a spark in the offense. And that's baloney. I'm here to tell you, the idea that they're doing this to get a spark in the offense is, as Chris, as you would say, bullshit. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it to get out of his contract and not get themselves in a predicament where they would owe him another $37 million fully guaranteed if he can't pass a physical by the 5th day of the league year that starts on March 13. That's a given. And for Sean Payton to say it's performance related, that we're trying to get a spark, that makes it even worse. That's the ultimate vote of no confidence in your franchise quarterback. When has a franchise quarterback ever had the ball taken out of his hands to give a spark to the offense? Unless you're done with him. You don't think he's a franchise quarterback anymore. You're taking the ball out of his hands. He's not a franchise quarterback. Therefore, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. That's all it is. That's it. He's out. It's over. It's done. He knows it. They know it. We know it. It's done. And we're going to spend the next couple of hours, or at least a large part of it, breaking down where it goes from here. But it is done, finito, kaput, between the Broncos and Russell Wilson.
Right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Pretty amazing stuff, honestly. First off, you kicked around this whole idea and this notion of this all morning yesterday. So, it's funny that we were kind of talking about it, and you and your pasta and meatballs and everything there, you were kind of feeling what might happen or what was on the radar for the Denver Broncos. Even when I saw the tweet from Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, I still, after reading that, just was like, well, it doesn't mean it's over, right? They could be playing just hardball and, we're going to save the money, and we're also going to, we want to protect the money and in case for an injury. Also, we want to just be able to reevaluate the situation. I thought, man, maybe they're playing hardball like you mentioned a little yesterday, and that, maybe they're going to get them to try to take less because there's not going to be a market out there to pay Russell Wilson $40 million after the last 2 years. Maybe they're going to do that. I was kicking around ideas in my head all over the place. But then you watch the Sean Payton press conference, and it's pretty clear right away that no. It's over. Agreed with you. Of course, the economics are part of the situation, 100%. But I also think the play and the way the offense has looked and everything around that, and Sean Payton's exasperated by all of it. I think that's fair to say. And not only have I heard inklings of that, but I also know by just watching film and watching what they're doing on offense to know that he's got to be a little exasperated. Listen, he went through a time of managing Russell Wilson and let's get him going, and he tried to rewire the robot, right? And we saw some success and things were going the right way, but it hit a plateau. And it never really went to another level at all. And, we'll unpack this more and more here. But I think ultimately, too, Sean Payton felt very handcuffed by Russell Wilson. And the fact that he made some comments on after the game Sunday night. Maybe I need to pull back on the offense more, right? There's been a lot of stuff like that and talk around Russell Wilson's ability to digest all of Sean Payton's offense. And I think that's a big part of why there's going to be no future here as well.
And that's exactly where the pasta and meatballs came from. They were served up to me on Tuesday by Sean Payton. It was the last post I wrote before yesterday morning's show. This isn't one of those situations, because I've already been asked, because I've acknowledged from time to time that sometimes I'll be told things by people who don't even want it to be presented as a report. They say, present this as your own idea, and you will look like you were right. And so now, and that's the problem. When you acknowledge that, when you're people are like, oh, so you knew this was coming. And I know this was seeing Sean Payton's quotes from Tuesday. And we said this yesterday. When he says, in reference to the offense, it's self-inflicted problems. That has to get cleaned up. Communication. That might be having to reduce. Is there too much in? Right now, we're average to below average in a lot of things offensively, and it's not good enough. And that was the headline of the item that I made the lead at PFT before we started the show yesterday. Sean Payton, Broncos offense is, quote, not good enough, end quote. And that's what sparked our conversation yesterday. Now, what I thought was, because they're still alive for a playoff berth. That's what makes this even more remarkable. They're still alive, and they're yanking him. Last year, when the Raiders did exactly the same thing to Derek Carr, get him out, put him in bubble wrap, don't let him get injured, because we have to be able to cut him healthy when the deadline arrives for $40 million becoming fully guaranteed. If it's injury guaranteed and he can't pass a physical, you can't cut him. He earns the money. That's what this is all about. The Raiders were done last year when they did that to Derek Carr, and coincidentally let Jarrett Stidham finish the year. This year they're still alive for the playoffs. So I thought what they would do is just give it one more shot, try to win this week. It's the home finale. Try to beat the Chargers, see where things stand entering Week 18, and if it looks like they can't make it, then you put Russell Wilson into, that little glass bubble, and you make sure that he's healthy. They only want to risk that. They're doing the whole, and this is analytics is part of football at every level. They're doing the percentages. What's our real chance of making the playoffs?
Yeah, right.
And what's our chance of Russell Wilson getting himself injured and he can't pass a physical by March 18, and we're stuck with another $37 million fully guaranteed? They are happy to say, we'll put our franchise quarterback on the bench, especially because, and this is where the spark comes from, Chris, they think they're going to get better performance out of Jarrett Stidham right now. So that makes it even, as they're making that one last reach for the brass ring, based on what Peyton said yesterday, he thinks they have a better chance of getting there.
Yeah, I think
with Stidham as the quarterback.
Right. I think that's the headline. I might have misspoke, and I said, Sunday night's press conference or whatever. I think maybe you're right. Maybe it was Tuesday's press conference and some of those quotes that were a little bit, eye-raising, certainly. When you say that, that type of stuff, communication issues, right? Of course, I watched Denver on film a lot. Hadn't watched them the last 2 weeks on film, but yesterday I was like, well, I'm going to go back and watch, because I don't think I had really seen them play on film since the Texans game, right? That was the last time I really checked them out and, did my whole deep dive for my podcast and all that stuff. But looking at pass plays, looking at things they've been doing, right? First off, the offense was very simple to begin with. And you thought, okay, well, it's Russell Wilson. He's getting used to a new system. They're going to just kind of play it safe. Peyton's going to manage the game, slowly gain confidence in Russell Wilson. And you thought those things, were going somewhat in the right direction. But I think after you look at like the two losses and, you look at moments in the game where guys line up wrong and Russell Wilson doesn't really correct them like people on the sideline do, which is hilarious, right? It's still at the end of the play clock a lot of the time, and confusion when you get out of the huddle when you watch it, let alone the biggest, to me, smoking gun of it all. This is Sean Payton. This is the guy that's famous for 9 million plays and 9 million checks and 9 million formations, and the Broncos run 9 plays, and they're extremely simple. And you see repetitive plays throughout the football game on and on and on. And that, to me, is the biggest, clue that you can get to go, wait, he obviously doesn't, trust Russell Wilson to run or be able to fulfill what he expects of his whole offense here. It is the elementary level of that offense is what he is doing. And I think that goes back to what you're saying, where they're going, we can't beat Detroit Lions and the Patriots type of defenses unless we start doing more on offense. Let alone even with those simple plays. Russell Wilson, I see people out there, well, look at his stats. He outperformed Mahomes this year. Like everybody's got to stop doing this shit. Looking at a bottom line number and going, he's outperforming him because his number's bigger. Are you kidding me? One guy is the offense. The other guy, like, the offense is dragging along. Like, come on, try to keep up. Are you kidding me, everybody? Like, stop. But their offense and what they do gives them no chance to beat quality football teams, let alone he still doesn't always throw to the open receiver. He watches the rush too much. And those are things that I'm sure Sean Payton after Sunday night was just like, I can't take it anymore. We got to make a move.
I think if we dig a little bit deeper, the first tangible clue that something was seriously amiss came during that Lions game a couple of Saturdays ago,
right,
when Payton blew a gasket on the sideline at Russell Wilson. And I said in the aftermath of that had a vibe to it more along the lines of, I have told you 20 effing times, this is what you're supposed to do. How many times do I have to tell you that this is what you're supposed to do? How many times? How many times do I have to tell you this? I've told you this over and over again. Now, we can't read lips, but it's the demeanor that it was just, that's it. I've reached my wit's end. Now, some could say it's just Payton deflecting his own failures in the offense onto Wilson. But regardless, one guy stays and one guy goes, and Payton ain't going. Russell Wilson is the one who's going. And the only way that changes, and I hadn't thought of this until right now, and I'm not saying that this is even remotely possible, but there is only one way that this changes. If the powers that be in Denver would decide, you know what, between Payton and Wilson, we like Russ, we want Russ, we'll keep Russ, we'll just fire Payton. I'm not saying that even has a 1% chance of happening. That's the only way Russell Wilson stays.
Yeah, right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
If the Broncos decide we're choosing, and you don't know what factions there may be within the organization that would be pro-Russ and anti-Payton. We don't know that. I mean, George Payton, the GM of the team, has got to be hanging by a thread right now because he's the one who traded for Russell Wilson, and he's the one who gave him that big-ass contract that they're going to be saddled with some significant cap consequences. We'll talk about those coming up, but that's the only way Russell Wilson stays.
Right.
If there's some sort of a palace coup that happens and Payton's the one who's out after the season ends and Russ is the one who stays, and they go hire another new coach, specifically with the mandate, you're going to be the one to make chicken salad out of this horrendous trade we did with everything they gave up to the Seahawks, and after only 2 seasons and $119 million in cash, Russell Wilson out.
Yeah, it's when you put it that way, it's shocking. I would be like fall off my chair shocked, right? If it was like what you said, they decided, well, we're going to keep Russell Wilson off to Sean Payton. I mean, I think kind of the
no, they won't. They won't.
I know.
Payton's smart enough to make sure Greg Penner, the owner of the team, is on board with everything he's doing.
I would think so,
It would be a
too.
dramatic turn of events.
Right.
But I'm just saying it's the only way Russell Wilson stays.
Yeah. The proof in the pudding, and I know I'm not telling you anything. I mean, we're huge Sean Payton fans from every facet. I mean, what offensive genius, toughness, motivation, whatever you want to say, right? Being a spokesperson on some big subjects that go on in the league. I mean, I have tremendous respect for Sean Payton that way. And, for those who would go, oh, he's just putting his own frustrations or deflecting or, whatever psychology word they want to say about Russell Wilson. Like, there's no way. There's no, that's not. And Sean Payton's never had that problem with any quarterback ever, really. I mean, again, it doesn't matter who it is. Drew Brees, awesome. We know, setting records. Drew Brees out of the game. Luke McCown, the backup quarterback. When he would come in, he'd throw for 300 yards and a touchdown or two and no interceptions. Teddy Bridgewater, what he did with Sean Payton, right? I mean, he managed Jameis Winston even a year after he set the record for interceptions. So, there's not much you could say against Sean Payton, the offensive genius, and try to knock that down, at least in my opinion there. And that, is where the Russell Wilson thing, I think, has got to be the most frustrating. I think we all thought the personalities don't really mesh together. That doesn't seem right. but they were making do and making it happen, and it felt like Sean was, changing him a little bit in some ways there. But I think ultimately still the fact that Sean Payton is handcuffed running his offense, I think drives him crazy. I do. And then I think when you couple that with a guy that, even though I've simplified it and we got wristbands and everything, we're still not lining up and executing right or looking at the right guy and where we're supposed to throw the ball. And then we do dumb stuff on top of that. Again, like I talked about, you go back to the Texans game, right? The 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter or in the second half, 2 in the fourth quarter, and they were bad. Like where you're like, the game, they're going to win the game if he doesn't do that. So there's that. And then, like I said, the simpleness of the offense and not being able to do that. And then breaking some of the rules that you would do just within those simple plays and how you play the position. I think all of that is just, he said, the hell with that. I know Jarrett Stidham can run my complete offense. He's got some physical ability. Let's see what he's got here. And, yeah, I think we got a better chance with my more variety of a playbook with Jarrett Stidham rather than the simplified version and Russell Wilson winning down the stretch here these last 2 games.
One of the things we suggested yesterday, Chris, was a middle ground that would entail Russell Wilson and the Broncos reaching an agreement that would take that $37 million that becomes fully guaranteed if he can't pass a physical by the middle of March and kick it a year. Don't make it vest in 2024. That's the entire 2025 salary. That's what the $37 million number is. Don't make it vest in 24. Give the Broncos 24 to decide whether or not they want to keep him around at $37 million in 25. Mark Maskey of the Washington Post has a long story about this, and there's a very significant paragraph embedded in it. And a lot of times the lead gets buried. I think this is the biggest takeaway, and this is the biggest addition to the reporting on what happened. According to a person familiar with the deliberations, but right out of the gates I screwed it up. According to a person familiar with the deliberations between the team and Wilson, the Broncos previously threatened to bench Wilson for the rest of the season if he did not agree to rework his contract to address the injury guarantee. One such exchange took place following the Broncos' victory October 29 over the Kansas City Chiefs. The NFL and the NFLPA became involved in the matter, according to that person. So even after the Broncos beat the Chiefs, they came at Russ and said, we're going to bench you for the rest of the season if you don't do something about this $37 million. Because Peyton had already decided then, you're not my guy. You're not my guy. And the fact that the Broncos were winning is what delayed this, Chris, as long as it was. And until they lose to the Lions and the Patriots, that's when the Broncos finally pull the plug on Russell Wilson. This has been coming for 2 months. Sean Payton made his assessment at some point before Halloween that this is not my guy in 2024. That's the takeaway from this report from the Washington Post.
Yeah,
and it's just been a matter of implementation since then.
Right.
And the league and the union get involved. There's nothing they can really do about it. The team's got the absolute right to decide who plays and who doesn't play. And if they're going to make those decisions based on financial considerations, well, when you agree to a contract with terms like that, as the player and the player's agent, you understand. You may create an incentive for the player to not be playing at all so he doesn't get injured, so they can get out from under the contract before another $37 million becomes fully guaranteed. So I don't know what the league or the union could do about it other than just be a sounding board for the venting that's coming from Russell Wilson's camp. But this tells you there's been some dysfunction there for a while. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.